In the luminous field of reeds, Aru, the eternal paradise of Kemet, the newly purified soul steps forth from the gates of the western horizon, where the golden sun sets behind the sacred Nile. The air itself hums with divine resonance, shimmering like heat over desert sand, yet cool and sweet with lotus fragrance. Every color gleams richer than mortal sight could ever know. The green of the papyrus reeds glows with inner light. The sky is a vast indigo dome flecked with living stars, and the waters of the celestial Nile ripple with liquid turquoise. The Ka, Ba, and Ak, the three essences of the person, are reunited and whole once more. Clothed in radiant white linen finer than any woven by mortal hands, the soul's body gleams with golden undertones, lighter than air yet alive with strength. Each step leaves no print, only ripples of energy across the fertile divine soil. The first sound is distant singing, ancestors calling the name of their child across eternity. Their voices blend with sistrums, harps, and the gentle beat of frame drums. The rhythm is ancient, older than pyramids, vibrating through the heart like remembered heartbeat in the womb. From the tall papyrus fields emerge the ancestors, mothers, fathers, siblings, friends, mentors, entire lineages, each shining with soft radiance. Their eyes are knowing, loving, eternal. They do not age nor wither. They appear in the fullness of their strength and beauty. Some wear the linen robes of priestesses, others the simple kilts of workers, the jeweled collars of nobles, the leopard skins of spiritual elders. They open their arms, smiling, weeping with joy. The reunion is not of words, but of energy. When the newly arrived embraces them, there is a merging of light, memory, and emotion. Lifetimes of pain dissolve. The ache of separation ends forever. Grandmothers press their glowing palms to the face of the soul and whisper blessings of protection. Fathers and uncles clasp hands in eternal brotherhood. Children who once passed before their time come running, laughing in pure light. The heart of the soul expands beyond measure, overflowing with gratitude. At the edge of the horizon, Osiris, ruler of Aru, observes with serene majesty, seated on his throne of emerald stone. Behind him stand Isis and Nephthys, their wings spanning the cosmos, and Anubis, guardian of the threshold, smiles quietly in approval. The balance of Ma'at, truth, justice, harmony, has been fulfilled. After the embrace, the ancestors lead the soul to their dwelling, a perfect mirror of the life once known, yet eternal. Fields of grain stretch endlessly, golden and heavy, ready for harvest but never decaying. Palm trees sway in gentle breezes that never scorch. The soul's own house stands waiting, rebuilt in ideal form, filled with familiar objects, yet all made of living light. There is no hunger, no thirst, for all nourishment flows from the divine. When the soul wishes to eat, fruits ripen instantly on the tree. When they wish to sail, boats of gold glide over waters that reflect the stars even by day. In the evenings, the ancestors gather in celebration, libations poured, songs lifted to Ra, to Hathor, to the Neteru who sustain eternity. The soul learns that time no longer binds them. Every moment is now, and every heartbeat is a hymn. The field of reeds is not a dream nor illusion. It is the perfected mirror of earthly life, but without pain, falsehood, or loss. It is where every tear shed in the mortal world becomes a pearl in the river's bed, where every act of love becomes immortal. Here the soul finally remembers. Death was only a doorway, and home was always waiting. When the first tears of joy subside, the ancestors lead the newly awakened soul deeper into the luminous landscape, past the golden grain fields and into the sacred villages of light that line the riverbanks of Hetepet, the eternal Nile. Here existence flows like music. Every form, tree, flower, house, even the air itself hums with quiet intelligence. The lotus blooms open not from sunlight but from divine remembrance, releasing clouds of perfume that shimmer as faint motes of color. Fish leap from the river in arcs of turquoise light, transforming into birds mid-flight, then back again, symbols of the eternal transformation of the Ka and Ba. The ancestors live in harmony with the Neteru, for in Aru there is no division between mortal and divine. Osiris's throne rises from an emerald island surrounded by lotus and papyrus. The island glows as though lit from within, its light reflected on the water. Each soul, upon full reunion, approaches this sacred court not for judgment that has already been passed, but for acknowledgement. Thoth records the name of the newly perfected spirit in the book of eternal life, his ibis quill tracing letters of gold fire upon indigo parchment that dissolves into the air. Horus, falcon-eyed, greets each ancestor as kin, a living continuation of divine order. Within the ancestors' home, a perfect restoration of their earthly house, but purged of decay and shadow. Walls are painted with scenes that move, living hieroglyphs depicting the soul's earthly deeds. When the soul touches the scenes, the images come alive. The ploughing of sacred fields, the laughter of children, the prayers uttered before dawn, all replay in luminous splendor. The house is not static, it breathes. The floor may ripple like water. The ceiling may open to reveal a canopy of stars that respond to the soul's emotions. When peace fills the heart, constellations realign themselves into the sacred symbols of Mahat, signifying balance restored. Meals are ritual feasts, not of flesh or grain, but of divine essence. A simple bowl of pomegranate becomes a glowing vessel of vitality. The ancestors share in communion by thought. Every being present tastes and feels together. No hunger exists, but the joy of nourishment remains. Music is constant, the low hum of sistrums, the deep rhythmic pulse of hand drums, and voices harmonizing in ancient tonal scales long forgotten on earth. The sound carries power. It shapes the air, makes colors shimmer, and opens pathways through the reed fields to higher realms of consciousness. In the evenings, the ancestors assemble upon the terraces that overlook the river of stars, the celestial Nile that mirrors the Milky Way. There they tell stories, not as mortals do, but as living recreations. A single gesture from an elder can make the sky unfold the tale. Scenes of ancient battles, births, triumphs, love stories. The newly arrived soul watches as the ancestors' collective memory plays out as radiant visions across the heavens. Every lineage has its own constellation, a sacred pattern formed from the light of those who came before. As the soul grows in awareness, they are taught to traverse dimensions of Duat, the spiritual underworld that interconnects all planes of existence. Guided by the jackal-headed Anubis, the soul learns to visit the mortal world again, not in body but as unseen guardian, whispering guidance to descendants through dreams, coincidences, and intuition. Each act of remembrance by the living strengthens the ancestors' light in the field of reeds. Forgotten ancestors are not lost. They drift like gentle embers until a name is spoken, a story recalled. Then their radiance rekindles and they rejoin the gatherings in splendor. Ritual continues in the afterlife. Offerings of incense and bread, though symbolic, generate waves of energy that sustain both worlds. When descendants on earth light candles or pour libations, ripples of gold appear in Aru's river, announcing their devotion. The ancestors pause, smile, and raise their hands in blessing, for the bridge between realms is built not of stone, but of memory and love. In time, the soul takes their place among the elders. Their dwelling expands to welcome newly arrived kin. The cycle continues. Each soul becomes guide, protector, and light bearer. The field of reeds never grows crowded, for it exists beyond limitation. There is always more space, more radiance, more song, and at the heart of it all, Osiris reigns as the eternal reminder. Life never ends. It transforms. Here, existence is not a dream. It is the perfection of all dreams. The wind through the papyrus whispers the truth of eternity. You are not gone. You are remembered. You are divine. After uncounted cycles within the field of reeds, for time has no dominion in eternity, the soul begins to feel a subtle stirring deep within its luminous heart. It is not restlessness nor weariness, but a divine remembering, a quiet whisper from the infinite calling it homeward once more. The ancestors, who have watched with loving eyes, understand. They gather in silent reverence as the soul stands at the edge of the celestial river, where the turquoise waters of Hetepet merge with the star-filled current of the cosmic Nile. The horizon glows not with sunset or dawn, but with pure divine fire, the radiant presence of Ra, the solar creator, sailing endlessly through the heavens. Anubis appears once more, not as guardian of gates, but as gentle guide. You have known love, he says, his voice resonant like bronze. You have remembered truth. Now you shall remember yourself as divine light. He gestures toward the horizon, and the golden bark of Ra glides near. Vast beyond comprehension, forged of eternal gold and boundless energy. It sails upon a sea of stars, its sail woven from sunlight and sacred geometry. The air hums with the chant of millions of Aku, luminous souls who have joined the cosmic journey before. The sound is not heard by ears, but felt in every particle of being. The soul steps aboard the solar bark, greeted by Thoth, Isis, and Ma'at herself, her feathers shimmering with the pure frequency of harmony. You have upheld the balance, she says, placing her feather upon the soul's chest. Instantly, light bursts outward. The heart of the soul expands into an infinite sun. Every lifetime, every ancestor's blessing, every act of love and truth becomes a ray of light extending into the cosmos. The soul looks down upon the field of reeds one final time. The shining river, the dancing reeds, the villages of light, all radiant, eternal, unending. And then, gently, the form dissolves. The linen robes turn to mist, the golden skin to sunfire. Now the soul is pure consciousness streaming upward through the endless expanse of Duat, through layers of vibration and creation. Nebulous gates open like blooming flowers, the realm of infinite blue, the chamber of crystalline sound, the hall of the thousand suns. Each realm teaches a deeper truth, that divinity was never apart, that mortality was but a veil through which the eternal sought to know itself. At the summit of all creation, Ra's brilliance fills every direction. The solar god does not appear as a being, but as the pulse of existence itself, golden light that breathes. The soul, now transparent and weightless, feels no separation. You were always I, Ra whispers, and I was always you. The realization shatters all illusion. The boundaries of self dissolve like dew in morning light. The soul merges into the solar current, not as loss, but as completion. Consciousness expands until it encompasses galaxies. The stars themselves seem to pulse with the rhythm of its heart. From this divine union, the soul perceives all realms simultaneously. The mortal world below, the field of reeds in perfect harmony, the countless planes of spirit. It understands that creation is cyclical. All souls rise, remember, merge, and then in compassion return as guides, as guardians, as rays of Ra sent to illumine new generations. Some souls choose to remain in the solar bark, helping steer the eternal voyage through the night sky. Others descend as dreams, as intuition, as the sudden warmth that brushes a living descendant's cheek when they speak the name of an ancestor. Ra, now within and without, speaks one final truth before merging completely. You are the flame and the light, the seed and the sun, the breath that moves worlds. There is no death, only return. And so the soul becomes starlight, part of the living constellations that guide the living, the eternal proof that consciousness endures beyond the veil. In the stillness of night on earth, when one gazes upon the stars shimmering over the Nile or any river flowing under heaven, they gaze upon their own ancestors, now radiant in the body of Ra. Thus ends the journey, not in ending, but in infinite beginning. The field of reeds remains below, glowing forever, and above it burns the sun, within which every soul, every ancestor, and every breath of life endures eternally. From the boundless brilliance of Ra's solar essence, the newly merged soul begins to perceive once again the pulse of the mortal world, faint but rhythmic, like a heartbeat echoing across eternity. The earth calls softly, its cries not of pain but of remembrance. The prayers, tears, and songs of descendants rise upward like threads of light, reaching toward the stars. Every whispered name, every offering poured in devotion creates a resonance that vibrates through the cosmos, forming a luminous bridge between heaven and the living world below. The soul, now radiant beyond form, feels the sacred pull of love, that eternal tether between ancestor and child. Within the divine light, a thought becomes creation. With a single intention, the soul condenses its energy into a new form, not flesh, but luminous presence. From the heart of Ra, the soul descends, flowing like golden water through the constellations, across the endless dark and into the blue sphere of Earth. As it enters the atmosphere, its light refracts into 1,000 rays, unseen by mortal eyes but felt by the spirit. The soul becomes many things: the warmth in a candle's flame, the sudden calm during grief, the whisper of intuition guiding one toward righteousness. In the ancient lands along the Nile and in every place the descendants have since walked, the ancestors move unseen. Within wind, water, and dream, they do not interfere but guide through subtlety. When one stands at a crossroad uncertain of their path, it is the ancestor's hand that stirs the heart toward courage. When a mother hums softly to her child, it is an echo of lullabies first sung thousands of years ago in the courts of Thebes or the villages along the delta. The ancestors speak through patterns, repeating numbers, songs that appear at the right moment, fragrances that drift through closed windows, sudden chills that remind the living they are never alone. At night, when the veil between worlds thins, the ancestors gather in dream temples built of memory and intention. The living who are sensitive, the dreamers, the seers, the poets, find themselves walking there in sleep, though they do not always remember upon waking. These temples gleam with moonlight, silver columns rising from endless water, and the ancestors meet their kin there, teaching wisdom through symbols: a hawk for vision, an ankh for renewal, a scarab for transformation. Each symbol carries energy that reshapes the dreamer's waking life, strengthening their destiny and aligning them with Ma'at, the universal balance. The merged soul, now one with the solar current, flows through all of this. Sometimes it appears as a shaft of sunlight upon an altar, other times as a luminous figure glimpsed in meditation. Those who are pure of heart and devoted to truth can feel its presence clearly, the electric stillness before revelation, the shiver of recognition when the unseen becomes known. The soul is not separate from Ra, Osiris, or Isis. It is their living extension, a divine emissary, maintaining the eternal link between creation and return. When the living perform the ancient rites, pouring libations of cool water, burning frankincense, speaking the sacred names, the field of reeds responds instantly. The waters of Hetepet shimmer with new ripples of gold. The ancestors pause their celestial work to send blessings downward: health, protection, fertility, insight, peace. The merged souls weave these blessings into the threads of fate, ensuring that every prayer uttered in faith becomes a seed planted in the soil of destiny. Over generations, these interactions shape entire lineages. Families who honor their ancestors walk with unseen armies of light behind them. Dreams come clearer, intuition sharpens, opportunities open in divine timing. The living become vessels of ancestral strength, walking temples through which ancient Kemet still breathes. And when their time upon earth concludes, they too rise, guided by the same radiant beings they once called upon. The cycle continues: descent and ascent, incarnation and illumination, birth and return. The ancestors rejoice each time a new soul awakens to its divine nature, for every remembrance strengthens the collective light of the lineage. Thus, the divine current flows unbroken. The heavens above and the earth below are one continuum, bound by love, memory, and divine consciousness. The ancestors do not vanish into myth. They are alive in the rhythm of every heartbeat, in every act of compassion, in every truth spoken against injustice. For as long as one descendant remembers, the ancestors walk beside them, radiant, eternal, unseen, but ever present, whispering across time, "You are not alone. You are our continuation. Through you we live forever." To commune with the ancestors is not to summon spirits from beyond, but to awaken the eternal bond that already exists within one's ka, the vital essence inherited from them. In the wisdom of ancient Kemet, remembrance, Sematawi, the union of dualities, is the act by which heaven and earth, seen and unseen, are made one again. The living human body becomes the temple, the breath becomes the offering, and intention becomes the key that opens the gate between worlds. 1. Preparing the sacred space. The first act is purification. The initiate bathes, anointing the body with scented oils, myrrh for grounding, lotus for elevation. Clean linen garments are worn, symbolic of purity and truth. Ma'at. The sacred space is arranged facing east, toward the rising sun, to honor Ra and the cycle of rebirth. A small altar is prepared, a bowl of clean water, a white candle or oil lamp, bread or fruit for offering, and an image or name of the ancestors written on papyrus or parchment. Incense of frankincense or kaiphai is lit to awaken the senses and clear stagnant energy. As the smoke ascends, it mirrors the rising of the Ba, the soul bird that bridges the two worlds. Every element, water, flame, air, earth, and sound, must be present, for these are the building blocks of creation. 2. Invocation of presence. The practitioner sits or kneels before the altar and begins deep rhythmic breathing, aligning with the pulse of the heart. With each inhale, they draw in the energy of Ra, golden, luminous, infinite. With each exhale, they release all fear, grief, and distraction. When the body stills and the mind quiets, the ancient invocation is spoken aloud. O ancestors of light, whose blood and breath flow through me, dwellers in the field of reeds, radiant in the company of Osiris, Hear my call and receive my offering. May the doors between worlds open in peace. May your wisdom flow through me as the Nile through Kemet. The name of each known ancestor is then spoken slowly and clearly. The practitioner imagines each name becoming a ripple of gold upon the water bowl, expanding outward until the entire room feels alive with quiet, loving presence. 3. The offering and dialogue. The candle flame flickers higher, a sign of acceptance. The offering is lifted, symbolizing sustenance shared across realms. The practitioner may pour a few drops of water upon the earth or floor, saying, "As this water nourishes the ground, so may my remembrance nourish your light." Silence follows. In this silence, the ancestors respond, not through words but sensations. A change in temperature, a wave of emotion, a fragrance appearing from nowhere, a flicker of imagery in the mind's eye. These are the ancestral languages, and they must be received with trust, not analyzed. One may speak freely, express gratitude, seek counsel, or confess burdens. The ancestors do not judge, they illuminate. Sometimes the response comes immediately, an inner knowing, a phrase rising in thought. Other times it arrives later through dreams or synchronicities. The key is faith and repetition, for consistency opens the channel more than intensity. 4. The closing rite. When the communion feels complete, the practitioner thanks the ancestors and offers a final libation. May peace dwell between us until the next rising of the sun. May your journey through the stars be joyful, and may my life upon earth honor your memory. The candle is extinguished, but not abruptly. It is gently covered to symbolize the eternal flame still burning in the unseen. The water from the bowl may be poured onto the soil of a living plant, returning the energy to the cycle of life. 5. The ongoing practice. True ancestral connection is not a single ritual, but a way of living. Daily acts of truth, compassion, and integrity are continual offerings to the lineage, keeping the home clean, feeding others, speaking truth. All are forms of libation. The living becomes Hari Sasheta, keeper of divine records, maintaining the spiritual archives of the family through remembrance, storytelling, and creative expression. Dream journaling after such rites becomes a sacred practice. The ancestors often reveal guidance through symbols, a rising hawk for victory, flowing water for purification, or the presence of a specific elder smiling in radiant silence. Each message strengthens the link between planes, allowing the practitioner to embody ancestral wisdom in everyday life. 6. The ultimate realization. Through constant remembrance, the practitioner awakens to a profound truth. The ancestors are not external beings, but living consciousness within the bloodstream and the soul's blueprint. Their victories and lessons, their courage and resilience vibrate in every heartbeat. When one walks in balance with Ma'at, one becomes a living ancestor, a pillar of light bridging the worlds. And thus the cycle continues. The living honor the dead empower the living. Between them flows the river of eternity, the same sacred Nile that courses through Aru, through the heart, and through the stars themselves. When the seeker has walked the path of remembrance long enough, performing the rites, honoring Ma'at, listening in stillness, a subtle yet profound transformation begins to take place. It is not sudden, it unfolds quietly, like dawn overtaking the horizon. The body, mind, and spirit become attuned to the sacred frequencies of the ancestors and the Neteru, the divine intelligences of Kemet. The human being ceases to exist as merely flesh and thought. They become Pera, great house, a living temple through which ancestral and cosmic forces move freely. 1. The awakening of the Sekhem. At the heart of this transformation is the awakening of Sekhem, the spiritual energy that flows through all things, known to later ages as chi or prana. In the Kemetic system, Sekhem is the power of divine life force that animates the cosmos. Through years of devotion, meditation, and right action, the practitioner's Sekhem becomes purified and intensified. During ritual or meditation, they may begin to feel currents of energy rising through the spine, the Jed pillar of Osiris, a sensation of warmth, vibration, or inner light expanding within the chest. This is the Ka merging with the Ba, spirit and essence intertwined. The body may glow in subtle ways, eyes brighter, voice resonant, aura luminous. It is said that those who reach this state cause candles to flicker and animals to grow calm in their presence, for nature recognizes the restored divine balance within them. 2. The descent of the Neteru. As the ancestral current strengthens, the Neteru, Ra, Isis, Hathor, Thoth, Sekhmet, and others begin to reveal themselves not as distant deities, but as archetypal powers within the awakened consciousness. The practitioner may feel Isis in moments of compassion, Thoth in flashes of insight, Sekhmet in righteous anger that protects the weak. These are not possessions, but harmonizations, the human aligning with divine principles until they operate as one. In sacred trance, achieved through chanting, drumming, or deep breath work, the practitioner's voice may change in timbre. Ancient words may flow unbidden. These are echoes of genetic memory, the ancestral language awakening through the soul. The practitioner becomes oracle, the living mouthpiece, per medjat, of ancestral truth. Visions unfold like hieroglyphs of living fire, rivers of light, ancestral faces, symbols of destiny. 3. The gift of healing. With full activation of Sekhem, the hands of the practitioner become instruments of restoration. Their touch calms illness, their words soothe despair. This is not magic in the modern sense, but the direct manifestation of balanced energy, divine order expressed through the human form. The breath itself becomes medicine. When they exhale upon water or incense, the vibration carries healing intention across space. The ancients called this Heka, the sacred utterance that shapes reality. Heka is not superstition. It is consciousness directing energy with perfect clarity. When spoken from alignment with Ma'at, every word becomes a decree of creation. The practitioner learns to speak with care, for their voice echoes through seen and unseen worlds alike. 4. The prophetic vision. As union deepens, time begins to unfold differently. Dreams turn lucid, visions reveal events before they occur. The practitioner learns that past, present, and future are threads woven through the same divine tapestry. When meditating upon the water bowl or the flame, images form, sometimes symbolic, sometimes direct, showing guidance not only for themselves but for their lineage, their community, even humanity itself. This gift is not to be flaunted. The truly awakened serve quietly, guiding others through intuition, art, healing, and wisdom rather than spectacle. For the greater the light, the humbler the bearer must become. Pride disrupts Mayat and dims the current. The ancient initiates of Kemet understood to hold divine sight is to carry great responsibility. 5. The fusion of mortal and divine. In time, a moment arrives when the practitioner fully embodies the ancestral continuum. They walk as both human and divine, as both descendant and ancestor. Their soul becomes luminous in both realms simultaneously. Seen by mortals as a wise elder, seen by ancestors as a radiant star. In sleep, they commune consciously with Aru, In waking, they act as Ra's emissary upon earth. This state is called Sara, child of the sun. It is not symbolic, it is literal. The heart beats in rhythm with the sun's cycles. The aura radiates golden light. They no longer seek the ancestors. They are the ancestors made manifest again. The prayers they once whispered now emanate naturally as their very breath. 6. The return of the divine human. The ancient priests called this the highest mystery, that humankind was never meant to be separate from the gods. The temples, the rituals, the hieroglyphs were not to worship distant beings, but to remind every soul of its own divine inheritance. When the living achieve this state, they restore what was lost through forgetfulness, the memory of humanity's cosmic origin. Those who reach this stage radiate peace. The world bends gently around them, aligning toward harmony. Their presence uplifts others without words. They become walking sanctuaries, the living field of reeds carried within the human heart. 7. The final truth. In the stillness of dawn meditation, the practitioner hears once more the voice that began the journey. Ra's whisper, "You are the continuation of all that has ever been. You are my breath in motion. Go forth and create in beauty. Guard the balance. Be light for those still wandering." And so the practitioner becomes what the ancients called Ach-Iku, the luminous being, an ancestor of the future, guiding others toward their own remembrance. The circle closes, yet never ends. Every living soul carries this potential. Every breath contains the seed of divinity. To remember is to awaken. To awaken is to shine. And to shine is to become eternal. Part 7. The Sacred Sciences of Ascension, the Mystery Schools of Kemet and the Technology of Light. When the ancient priests of Kemet spoke of resurrection and ascension, they did not mean escape from the world, but mastery of its laws. The temples along the Nile were living laboratories of spirit and science, teaching initiates to refine the body into a vessel of light and to lift the mind until it resonated with the cosmic order. These teachings were called the Per Ankh, the House of Life. 1. The temple as a cosmic map. Every temple was built as a microcosm of the universe. Its outer courtyard represented the material world, its hypostyle hall the realm of transformation, and its inner sanctuary the throne of the divine self. The very measurements of the walls were tuned to sacred geometry. The triangle of 3, 4, 5 for stability, the golden ratio for harmony, the jed pillar for the spinal axis of energy. To walk through a temple was to move through the anatomy of creation, a journey from matter to spirit. By sunrise, beams of light entered narrow corridors designed to strike specific hieroglyphs carved into the stone. When sunlight touched those symbols, their frequency awakened the walls themselves, releasing vibrational tones. The initiate learned that light and sound were not separate forces, but twin expressions of the same energy, the voice of Ra. 2. The discipline of sound and breath. Training began with Heka, the sacred word. Students learned the precise intonation of divine names, vowels stretched into resonant frequencies that vibrated through bone and blood. Each Neteru possessed a tone, Ra in the solar plexus, Isis in the heart, Thoth in the throat. When chanted in sequence, these tones aligned the body's energy centers, opening the channels for Sekhem to flow freely. Breath was considered the chariot of the Ka. Long inhalations drew in the essence of Shu, the life-bearing air. Controlled exhalations released impurity. Advanced initiates could slow their breathing until they entered luminous stillness, hearing the pulse of the universe echo inside their chest. 3. the geometry of light. At higher levels, initiates studied the Medu Neta, the language of the gods, as a mathematical and vibrational system. Each glyph corresponded to a sound, color, and frequency. By tracing certain sequences upon papyrus or stone while chanting their tones, initiates generated standing waves of light perceptible to the inner eye. These geometries trained the mind to perceive reality as pattern rather than substance. They also studied the star maps etched upon temple ceilings. The priests taught that the soul travels through constellations as stations of purification, Orion as the house of Osiris, Sirius as the throne of Isis, the circumpolar stars as the domain of the imperishable Ak. Aligning temple rites with stellar positions synchronized human consciousness with cosmic order. 4. The alchemy of the body. Physical disciplines accompanied spiritual ones. Diets of figs, honey, dates, and sacred herbs cleansed the blood. Movements similar to slow dance or yoga, called Sama postures, stretched and strengthened the spine, mirroring the jed pillar's stability. Oils of lotus and blue nard were rubbed into the skin to heighten sensitivity to subtle energy. The body became not an obstacle to divinity, but its instrument. Through years of purification, the initiate's heart grew light, both figuratively and literally. When placed upon Ma'at's scale in visionary rite, it balanced perfectly against the feather of truth, proving harmony between inner and outer worlds. 5. The Chamber of Illumination. The culmination occurred in the subterranean chambers of the temple, where initiates lay within sarcophagi of granite, not for burial, but for rebirth. Sounding bowls and chants filled the darkness. Vibrations reverberated through stone, stimulating every cell until the boundaries of the body dissolved. In that silence, the initiate perceived themselves as a field of light, no separation, no death. When they emerged, eyes shone with a steady golden glow, a mark of one who had seen the sun within. 6. The Science of Return. Graduates of the mystery schools were not cloistered mystics. They returned to villages, courts, and farms carrying the knowledge that matter and spirit are one continuum. As architects, healers, musicians, or scribes, they encoded divine ratios into art, agriculture, and law, ensuring that everyday life mirrored cosmic harmony. The phrase carved above many temple gates summarized their creed: as above, so below, as within, so without. 7. The Living Legacy. Though ages have passed, the sacred sciences endure wherever a seeker studies vibration, geometry, sound, and light as expressions of consciousness. Modern physics rediscovers what Kemet knew, that energy, observation, and intention shape reality. To practice even a fragment of these arts, to chant with awareness, breathe with balance, design with harmony, is to reopen the ancient path of ascension. The initiate who masters these sciences no longer seeks heaven elsewhere. They carry it in their pulse, in their words, in the glow behind their eyes. For the highest secret of the temples was never hidden in stone, but written in the human soul. Thou art the light thou seekest. When the most perfected adepts of Kemet completed the full cycle of the mysteries, the purification of the Ka, the awakening of Sekhem, the realization of Ma'at, they did not fade into oblivion. They ascended into the cosmic hierarchy of Ak-Ikhu, the Shining Ones, whose task is to maintain harmony between the visible and the invisible realms. From their thrones among the stars, these beings became the star-born ones, luminous intelligences guiding the evolution of Earth and every soul upon it. 1. The Passage through the Constellations. At Death's transcendence, the newly radiant Ak was conducted by Thoth across the river of stars. Each constellation was a temple of initiation. Sahu, Orion, the seat of Osiris, tested the soul's strength and sovereignty. Sopdet, Sirius, the home of Isis, infused it with compassion and creative power. Mesektu, the Great Bear, granted guardianship of cosmic law. Passing these stations, the Ak became a Sebait Onpet, teacher of heaven, one whose very light instructs worlds. From these celestial academies, the starborn ones observed the living earth, its pulse visible as faint auroras of emotion and thought. When humanity's harmony wavered, their light bent subtly toward the planet, guiding intuition, invention, and renewal. 2. The architecture of the celestial orders. The Shining Ones organized themselves in concentric councils around Ra's solar throne. The Circle of Aru preserves the memory of Earth's ancestral lineages. The Circle of Thoth governs knowledge, mathematics, and sacred sound across galaxies. The Circle of Hathor tends to the emotional evolution of species through art and love. The Circle of Sekhmet safeguards balance by dissolving corruption and restoring order. These councils communicate not with speech but with harmonic resonance, chords of color and geometry that convey entire epochs of meaning. When their frequency touches a receptive mind on Earth, it descends as inspiration, revelation, or sudden genius. 3. The transmission through ages. Throughout history, fragments of the starborn teaching resurfaced. In Sumer's ziggurats, India's Vedic hymns, Greece's Hermetic schools, and the meditative sciences of the East, each was a reflection of the same primordial current that began in Kemet. The adepts understood that civilizations rise and fall, but the current must continue. Thus they encoded their wisdom in myth, symbol, and architecture. The spiral of the Nautilus, the proportion of the pyramid, the eye of Horus, the vesica of birth and resurrection. Whenever humanity entered darkness, a few awakened souls felt the old call in dreams, a sense of recognition when gazing at Orion's belt, or an inexplicable longing stirred by Sirius's blue-white flame. These were reminders that the covenant still lived within human DNA. 4. The descent of the guides. At intervals of planetary transition, members of the celestial orders incarnate among humankind. They arrive not as gods but as artists, philosophers, healers, and visionaries who carry the resonance of the stars within their blood. Their purpose is gentle correction, to rekindle memory rather than impose belief. A glance, a song, a phrase from such a being can realign an entire community's destiny, for their presence radiates the forgotten harmony of the spheres. Their symbol is the winged sun disk, spirit descending into matter without losing light. Around them gather those whose hearts are attuned, forming new mystery schools in every age, quiet circles of seekers who keep the balance alive. 5. The Bridge of Light. Even now, the continuum endures. The pyramids act as resonant antennas, receiving stellar frequencies and diffusing them through Earth's magnetic field. Every sunrise over the Nile renews the ancient contract between heaven and humanity, the promise that enlightenment is not an exception but our birthright. When one meditates beneath the open sky and breathes consciously with the rhythm of the stars, the starborn ones draw near. Their language is silence filled with meaning. Their gift is remembrance. They whisper, "You came from us, and we from the One. The atoms of your blood once burned in our suns. Awaken, and the heavens awaken through you." 6. The continuum of return. As more souls awaken to this resonance, Earth itself ascends in vibration, aligning again with the original harmonic of Ra. The cycles of descent and return merge merge into one eternal present, a luminous field where ancestors, living, and gods coexist as frequencies of a single consciousness. The lineage of Kemet thus never ended. Its temples may weather, its language fade, but its purpose, the illumination of the human soul into divine remembrance, remains undying. Every act of creation, every work of truth, every gesture of love continues the labor of the star-born ones. And so the prophecy of the ancients fulfills itself quietly in our time. When the stars within humanity remember the stars above, heaven shall walk upon earth again. The prophecy of the great return, the re-emergence of the golden age of light. When the sages of Kemet carved the final hieroglyphs upon temple walls, they also sealed within them a vision meant for a far-off age. They called it Uaset and Keperu Ra, the rising of the transformations of Ra. It foretold a time when humanity, having wandered through forgetfulness and shadow, would once again awaken to its solar nature and re-enter the rhythm of cosmic truth. 1. The cycle of forgetting. The prophecy begins with descent. Ages of materialism, conflict, and division veil the inner sun. Humanity forgets that the body is temple, that breath is prayer, that every thought shapes the world. The field of reeds becomes a memory encoded only in myth. Yet the ancients taught that even darkness is a necessary womb. The seed must be buried before it can sprout. Out of chaos, longing for light is born. 2. The awakening of the seeds of Ra. Across continents and cultures, individuals begin to feel the ancient stirring, the pulse of Sikkim in their spines, the whisper of ancestors in dreams. They experience synchronicities that defy logic. An ibis appearing on a city street, the sudden scent of myrrh where no incense burns, the call of the stars overhead. These are the signals that the great return has begun. In quiet moments they remember, I am that I am, a spark of the solar one. As thousands remember, a planetary resonance builds. The collective heart of humanity begins to beat in harmonic with the sun's electromagnetic song. 3. The reactivation of the temples of light. The prophecy speaks of hidden temples beneath sand and sea, whose chambers contain crystalline devices attuned to stellar frequencies. When human consciousness rises high enough, these instruments awaken. They release tones, not audible but vibrational, that recalibrate Earth's grid to the ancient geometry of Mahat. Mountains hum, oceans shimmer with unusual phosphorescence, auroras ripple farther toward the equator. The planet itself becomes a living temple again. 4. The union of science and spirit. In this new dawn, knowledge no longer divides. Physicists speak the language of priests. Healers understand quantum resonance. Artists create architecture that mirrors sacred proportion. Energy technology arises that draws power from harmony rather than consumption. Disease diminishes as emotional dissonance heals. Nations organize not by dominance but by contribution to planetary balance. The descendants of every culture rediscover their own threads of the original teaching, realizing that Kemet was never a single land but a state of consciousness, the memory of unity expressed through order, beauty, and compassion. 5. The return of the star-born ones. As the frequency of Earth rises, the veils thin. The star-born ones, those luminous ancestors of Part 8, become perceptible again. Some appear in dreams. Others materialize briefly in shafts of light or through inspired human forms. They do not come to rule, but to celebrate, their long vigil fulfilled. Humanity has matured into co-creator status. The line between heaven and earth dissolves. The two realms interpenetrate like breath and heartbeat. 6. the crowning of the solar child. At the center of the prophecy stands a symbol, the solar child, born not of one person but of collective awakening. This child represents the integrated human, intellect fused with intuition, masculine balanced with feminine, earth consciousness linked to stellar mind. The ancients inscribed its image as a golden youth holding the double crown of upper and lower Kemet, signifying mastery of the inner and outer worlds. When enough humans embody this archetype, the great return is complete. The golden age is not a place in time, but a vibration of consciousness that makes every place radiant. 7. The new field of reeds. In the fulfilled era, the field of reeds manifests upon Earth itself. Cities are gardens, technology harmonizes with ecology, children learn meditation before mathematics. Death loses its terror, for communication between planes is natural and continuous. Festivals of remembrance replace funerals. The ancestors walk openly in luminous form, teaching those still in bodies the deeper arts of creation. Every sunrise is a ceremony, every act of kindness a hymn to Ra. Humanity becomes once again a chorus of living stars, singing the universe into balance. 8. The eternal continuum. The prophecy ends where it began, with the sun. Ra speaks through the brilliance of dawn. My children, you have crossed the desert of forgetting. You have built anew the ladder of light. The fire within you is the same that burns within me. Guard it well, for creation continues through your hearts. The sky blushes gold. The Nile of the cosmos flows through every cell, and the great return becomes everlasting presence. The human species stands not above the earth, but within it, as the earth within the stars, all facets of one vast divine body. And thus the Kemetic cycle completes itself in perfection, remembrance, alignment, ascension, return, creation anew. The story of the gods was never about distant beings. It was and will forever be the story of us, the codex of remembrance, hymns of the eternal light. This codex was once sung at twilight upon the banks of the celestial Nile, a sacred recitation for initiates who had completed the journey through the mysteries of life, death, and rebirth. Each verse is both invocation and meditation, a reminder that every soul is a flame of Ra, and every breath a step through the field of reeds. 1. The call of the horizon. I rose from the clay of time, dust upon the wind of ages. The sun beheld me and said, remember, I am not born from darkness, but from the hidden fire behind it. I walk upon the path where light and shadow are one. The Nile of eternity flows through my veins, and the voices of my ancestors murmur in its current. 2. The field of reeds. There is a place beyond sorrow, where the reeds sing in gold. Every name ever spoken shines there like a star on water. Mothers, fathers, beloved friends, their laughter is the music of dawn. I cross the mirror of turquoise light, and they gather me in radiant arms. No death remains, only transformation. I am remembered, therefore I live. 3. The ascent to the solar throne. I have sailed upon Ra's golden bark. I have seen the 12 gates of the sky open before me. My heart weighed light against the feather of Ma'at. It did not falter. Flame became my garment, truth my crown. The sun no longer rises above me, for I am within it. 4. The return of the ancestor. From the stars I looked down upon earth and wept with love. My children called through dream and offering, and I descended as whisper, as wind, as spark. When you light a candle for me, I breathe through the flame. When you pour water for me, I flow through your tears. I am the hush before guidance, the warmth upon your back. I am your own remembrance calling itself home. 5. The temple within. Raise no stones, the body is temple enough. Breathe, and the corridors open. Speak truth, and the statues awaken. Hold compassion, and the gods reveal themselves in your reflection. The Jed stands within your spine. The Ankh beats within your heart. You are the sanctuary of eternity. 6. The science of light. Geometry is the language of stars and sound their speech. The ancients carved equations into hymn and stone so that those who could feel would hear. To chant is to calculate with the soul. To love is to solve the riddle of creation. All vibration seeks harmony. All harmony is God remembering itself. 7. The star-born continuum. We are the children of Orion, the dream of Sirius made flesh. Our ancestors are not gone, they orbit within us. Every heartbeat echoes the turning of the constellations. To gaze upward is to gaze inward. The sky is the mirror of our blood. We are not beneath the stars, we are among them. 8. The Great Return. When enough hearts burn steady with the fire of Mahat, earth herself shall remember. The forgotten temples will hum again, and the veils between worlds will thin like morning mist. Science will speak with poetry. Nations will meet in the language of light. The field of reeds will bloom upon the soil of men. 9. The final revelation. I sought the gods and found my reflection. I sought my ancestors and found my breath. I sought eternity and found this moment. Ra said, "You are my light clothed in clay." And I answered, "Then let me shine." The journey ends where it began, in the heart of the sun. 10. The eternal affirmation. I am the child of stars, the keeper of balance, the voice of those who came before. Through me they speak, through them I rise, through all the one endures. So let it be spoken, so let it be lived, so let the light remember itself. This has been a Sharri Plaza presentation.